Hello everybody, this is our water dragon setup. Kind of a temporary thing right now. Um, this is a cage that we've had for 20 something years. Back a long time ago when we first had water dragons, and we brought it out of storage to use as a temporary move until I get done building their permanent residence. I'll be using an old china cabinet for that, but we're making do with this right now. They were in this little 10 gallon, which would still be fine for if it was just one, maybe two of them. They're about 3 months old. One of them is about a month and a half, 2 months old. Actually, they might be 4 or 5 months old, the older two. Um, but being that we have three, and I think I have three males, which makes it kind of tough to have three males together, especially in a small enclosure. Even though they're babies, they can already start showing signs of territorial aggressiveness, where they start doing the hand wave and the head nod. So we wanted to give the other two enough room to avoid the dominant male, which is the one back there. I'll unzip it here in a second and give you a better shot. So the key is, if you're going to have several, in case, especially if you start off with babies, you can't tell the sex yet. You want to make sure you have enough territory for the others to avoid the dominant, just so they don't get chased around constantly. They got somewhere to be where they can sleep and not constantly being threatened, chased, because they'll get completely stressed out and they'll stop eating just from the constant running around and being stressed out. So we decided to go ahead and move them into this. It's not ideal because it's the mesh screen enclosure, and it's not good at all, basically, for holding humidity, which is important for these guys. If you had some other type of reptile that doesn't really require a lot of humidity, these are actually perfect cages. But for water dragon, they gotta have constant humidity so they can peel when they start to shed, or their skin, and that's the natural environment. They love water, they drink a lot, and we'll get to that in a second. But I'll go ahead and zip it. Bear with me for a second, because I know y'all can't see very good. So this is the youngest. I think he's about 2 months old, maybe. Not very big. And then one of the bigger ones, easily twice the size. I think they're about 4 months old. They might look a little bit bigger on camera than they actually are. That's the dominant. I'm guessing he's a male. He's the one that starts doing the head nods and hand waving every now and then. He likes to dominate this top area where the heat and the light, basking light, is. To about halfway, about right around here. But as you can see, these other two have snuck in, and this is what they'll do. They'll sit there and get what they can, and eventually he'll chase them off. So the key is, you're gonna have several until you know exactly what sexes you have, or just in general, really, you want to have enough spacing for them to avoid each other in case one of them is territorial. And make sure you have plenty of water. This is a temporary setup again. What we have down here is actually a cat litter box, or we bought brand new. It's never been used for cat litter. You can see it right there. And we just pretty much bordered it in some moss, and that's good for now. It gives them some water to jump in when they want to. They like to get down the water, mainly to go to the bathroom, and then they'll go down there and drink. I got just a little water filter, like a waterfall filter up stuck in there. This was a basking rock that I also had for bearded dragons back in the day. Just set that on top to kind of hide it a little bit. The moss is in here mainly to hold humidity. Moss is pretty good at holding moisture and keeping your tank's humidity level up high enough. I've got this looks all ghetto right here. It's just hanging here because it came off. I had it stuck in the back here. But I gotta fix that. But that's a suction cup, and that runs up out of the tank here, or out of the cage. And this is your gauge. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with this. And this does a really good job of telling you what the temperature is and the humidity level. And you can see the temperature is at 73.4, and technically you want the overall temperature outside of the basking and infrared light. You want the overall tank temperature to be 80 or above, somewhere around there. And then of course under the basking light in the infrared basking lamp, you want it to be around 120 something degrees, just so they can get up there, get nice and hot. It helps them digest their food, and then they'll spend about maybe 5-10 minutes underneath that, and then they'll jump out. He was just underneath it right before I started the video, and he's already jumped out from underneath it. So and the other two are trying to sneak in now. And these are the lights that we have. That's a 110 volt basic reptile basking spotlight. I can't remember the name of it. I got the boxes in the bedroom. Same brand on the infrared, 110 watt, and they do a pretty good job as far as that goes. But you notice that my temperature is not 80 or above in the general temperature rest of the cage, and that's because this is a screen net enclosure. So what we did is we wrapped it in cellophane, basically. I think that's what you call it, saran wrap, whatever you want to call it. Try to hold some of the heat in. I know it looks pretty ghetto because I just got the moss kind of tucked in it, hanging. But like I said, it was just temporary. We threw it together really quick because he was starting to get pretty territorial, and we didn't want, in a 10-gallon tank, these guys don't have enough room to get out of his way, and it would just stress him out. So we went ahead and just temporarily threw something together here real quick to make that a little easier on the other two, give them some space. Let's see, I got some bedding on this side. This is a piece of driftwood that we got down here in Florida at the beach that he's laying on right there. We went, took our boys and found some driftwood. This right here is from a mangrove tree down there on the shore. It was old and already dry. So we brought it home and pretty much boiled all this stuff, make sure that there wasn't no mites and stuff like that in it. There's another piece of driftwood from the ocean on the shore. We live down in the Tampa area. You try to buy some of this driftwood at the pet store, it's ridiculously expensive. If you're lucky enough to live close to the ocean, it's a perfect place to go get you some driftwood for your reptile enclosures. It doesn't really matter what kind of reptile you got. If you've got anything that climbs or likes to bask, driftwood is awesome. It looks pretty cool. It's also great for fish tanks. But luckily enough for us, we're close enough to the ocean that we can go get it naturally and not have to spend 20 bucks for a branch. Something ridiculous. There's another cool piece down here down in the water. I think you can see that right there. So when you get, for those of you that are probably watching this video to looking into getting a water dragon, they're not really, I wouldn't say they're a beginner reptile, but they're not really advanced either. They're somewhere in the middle. If you do everything right, if you do your research and get the proper stuff, then they can be a beginner reptile. I mean, they're very docile. Sometimes they got a lot of energy, but jumping wise and being scared, but they're not like iguanas where they're kind of skittish. These guys will warm up to you pretty quick as long as you handle them every day. You can pick them up. I've been helping this guy. He just got done peeling. He's got a little bit left that you can see on his leg, but I mean, they're pretty tolerable to you touching them and handle them once they know that you're not a threat. But that's the most important thing, is you got to handle these guys. If you do, there's no problem. She's got her legs stretched out. She's enjoying her time under the basking lamp. She don't get much time because of the dominant butthole over here. So this one here, I'll help out every now and then. When he's not in the area, I'll go ahead and pick him up. He's usually way down here because he's the smallest, of course, so he'll spend a lot of time farther away. But they can't be cold for a long period of time or they won't eat. So I'll pick him up and put him up here. And he was kind of sickly when we got him from PetSmart, which I would never recommend getting water dragon from. Because more than likely, sometimes they always got some kind of issue. And if you look close, he looks kind of funny. See on top of his head, he's got skin, or he's got, yeah, skin that didn't shed properly from the last time that he shed, which was right when we bought him. And we tried to help him as best we could and got most of it to peel, but we didn't want to, you know, you don't want to pull stuff off that's not wanting to come off because you can injure him. So we're hoping the next time he peels, that stuff will come up with the other skin. We'll see. He's going to peel here in the next couple of weeks, I think. But other than that stuff, if you do your work, do your homework, get the proper lighting, and start off with a 10-gallon tank. That ain't nothing but like 10-12 bucks at the pet store, really. Get a screen top. The screen top that we had for that 10-gallon is up here now for safety, so we have something to stick the heat lamps on here. I cut out a piece of plywood to make a false top to shorten the length, because the baby was having a real hard time, or the smallest one was having a real hard time getting from all the way down here all the way up here. And plus the male started chasing him around, and one time he fell all the way from up top here, hit the rock down there. It was such a long drop. I just happened to come in here and check on him because I knew the big male was giving him a hard time, and there he was laying floating in the water dead. Basically he was knocked out. So I grabbed him out and I started rubbing his back and rubbing his belly, turning him upside down, and blew in his nose and mouth a couple times. Kind of, I don't know, I guess you can call it CPR. But anyway, I think I just got lucky and found him not long after he had hit the rock. But he was pretty much looking dead, wasn't breathing or nothing, man. But he came back. He just, all of a sudden, I was rubbing his chest and kind of shaking him a little bit, and he came back. And for about 2 days I had to open his mouth and force feed him. He had no energy whatsoever. Probably had a concussion. I know it sounds funny, but I think that's what it was. He's had a rough start, and sometimes you'll have that. You'll get one, and for whatever reason they won't eat. The most common thing when you get one from a pet store, whether it be a water dragon or a iguana, a snake, they usually end up having worms, depending on what the breeder was like and where they got them from. None of these guys have had worms. Kind of got lucky there. The place here in Tampa, they're actually they're known for quality, and that's where the mama pop shop pet store that I got these guys from, except for the little guy. These two came from a private owned pet shop, and that's where they go and they hand pick their baby water dragons from there. And these guys were bright neon green, just like they are now when I bought them, and they both just got done shedding. This one here shed about 2 weeks ago. He just is now finishing up, started about 2 days ago. And hopefully this one will be shedding next. But anyway, so be careful about where you get them from, or you'll run into problems like worms, and you'll have to kind of learn on the fly about deworming. You can get that stuff on Amazon. Always have it with you. I have some, because you never know. We got lucky so far. But their main diet right now, being that babies, they will eat crickets. However, when they're this small, if you get too big of crickets, the crickets can actually bite. Sometimes they have a hard time killing, or when they get them in their mouths, the cricket can bite them on the tongue, which is what happened to this one also. He had a swollen tip of his tongue for like about 2 days from a cricket got a hold of him. So now I just put him back on mealworms, and these are regular to small mealworms. That's all pretty much all we feed them right now. And actually every now and then a moth or an ant you'll see in here, and they'll eat that naturally. So you can get moths, dragonflies, whatever, if you want to watch them hunt and catch something naturally, because they'll do that. You put a moth in here and they'll go nuts, or anything that flies for that matter. Dragonflies, they love dragonflies, but of course again you got to be careful. Dragonflies can bite. So when they're this small right here, just stick to mealworms, small mealworms, or really small crickets. The only thing about crickets is when you get to a big enclosure like this, crickets got all kind of places to hide. And once they get hidden, they don't come out, and you'll be listening to crickets cricketing all the time. It'll drive you insane. So I just stick to mealworms right now until when they're big and strong enough to where they can catch a cricket pretty much automatically. I'm pretty sure these two guys would, but right now they're just mainly on mealworms. The other main thing is you want to make sure that you get a calcium supplement. I usually put the mealworms in a plastic bag, little sandwich bag, shake them up in this stuff, and then pour them out. This is what this little Tupperware dish is. I'll pour them out in that, and sometimes they actually eat better when they're coated in the white calcium stuff. For whatever reason, it makes them, they stand out more, and the water dragons will eat them a little bit better. I also, the little one, because he doesn't eat a whole lot, I got just a regular dropper, and I'll mix water and some of that calcium in there, and they all drink off the, they all already have trained to, they see this, they'll drink water from it automatically. That took less than a day. But anyway, that's pretty much the basics. Have a good one.